Welcome back to Anderson Acres. Today we're diving into another fascinating goat breed. This time we're heading into the mountains of Switzerland to talk about the Appenzell goat. Now, this is a rare breed, and honestly, you're not likely to see one outside its home country. Not saying it's impossible. Someone's going to pop in and say, "Oh, I've got them," and I don't live in Switzerland, but it's unlikely, okay? You're probably not going to see one if you're not in Switzerland. But its story is fascinating, its place in history is important, and its survival is a reminder of why conservation matters in farming. So let's get to know the Appenzell goat. Now, the Appenzell goat comes from the Appenzell region in northeastern Switzerland. This is a beautiful area with rolling green hills, alpine meadows, and traditional farming communities. This is a true heritage breed, one that developed naturally over centuries rather than being created through modern crossbreeding. Farmers in Appenzell valued these goats for their ability to thrive in rugged alpine environments. The pastures are steep, the weather is unpredictable, and not every animal can handle these particular sets of conditions. But the Appenzell goat proved itself to be a hardy, reliable, and productive animal, making it a cornerstone of traditional Swiss dairy farming in that region. Now, when you see an Appenzell goat, the first thing you notice is the color. Okay? They are pure white with a short, glossy coat that gleams in the sun. Unlike a lot of breeds that come in all kinds of patterns and shades, the Appenzell standard is very strict. They're all solid white. So there are no brown ones or spotted ones, they're all white. Another distinct feature is that Appenzell goats are naturally polled, which means there's no horns on their head. This sets them apart from many other breeds, where horns are either common or only avoided through very selective breeding. They're a medium-sized goat, not as large as some of the dairy breeds like the Saanens, but not really that small either, kind of in the middle. Bucks are strong and muscular. They are really a great representation of a goat in general. And the does are beautiful, more refined, very graceful looking. And that kind of reflects their dairy background. They're a little thinner than a meat bred goat would be, mostly because dairy breeds are a little bit thinner anyway. Their upright posture and clean, elegant lines make them stand out against the green of the alpine pastures. They really are striking animals, especially in their natural environment. The Appenzell is a dairy goat through and through. While they don't produce as much milk as more commercial breeds like Saanens or Alpines, their milk is valued for its high fat and protein content. That richness makes it perfect for traditional Swiss cheesemaking, especially the hard cheeses that have been produced in the mountains for centuries. Okay? They have absolutely 100% produced these cheeses for centuries, and they're delicious. Okay, I am a cheese lover. Making cheese is a thing that I do, and I love all good cheese. And cheeses made in these regions are absolutely delicious. Now, what's important to note here is that the Appenzell was never bred for massive industrial scale milk production. It remained a local goat, producing enough milk for families and small communities with the quality needed for regional cheese traditions. That's one of the reasons why it is so rare today. It wasn't pushed into global markets the way other Swiss goats were. They weren't then grabbed and selectively bred to produce more and more milk over decades. These guys are the way they always were. A decent dairy breed, very sweet, very nice to look at. Not the highest producers. And that's okay. Now, because of their white coats, the Appenzell goats are sometimes mistaken for Saanens, which is another well-known Swiss dairy breed. But the key differences between the two, there are a few. First, Appenzell goats are smaller. Okay, they're littler. They also have a strong tendency to be pulled, while Saanens are usually horned, unless they're bred to be pulled. And while the larger Saanen goat has been exported all over the world and are one of the most common dairy goat breeds in the world, the Appenzell has remained tied to its region, with very little presence outside of Switzerland. Like, almost unheard of to be outside of Switzerland. So while they may look like cousins at first glance, They are distinct breeds with different histories and different roles in farming culture. They are not the same goat. Now, here's where things get serious. The Appenzell goat is critically endangered. At one point, the breed nearly vanished completely. As other dairy goats like Saanens and alpines became more popular for their higher yields, the Appenzell was left behind. Today, only a few hundred Appenzell goats remain, most of them still in Switzerland, carefully managed under breeding programs designed to keep the population alive. Outside of that country, they're almost non-existent. Yeah, a handful here and there, but really, breed preservation is in Switzerland, and it's probably going to stay there for several decades. So if you're dreaming about adding an Appenzell to your hobby farm here in North America, the reality is that's probably not going to happen. They are too rare and too tightly controlled to make their way into our barns, and the best of the best need to be in these breeding programs. They need to be, or the breed is going to die out. The good news is that conservation programs are actively working to preserve this breed. In Switzerland, organizations and local farming groups maintain small herds and breeding programs, ensuring that the Appenzell doesn't disappear overnight. These programs are focused on protecting the genetic diversity, supporting the farmers who choose to raise Appenzells, and spreading awareness of the importance of rare livestock breeds. Farmers who keep them may even receive subsidies or support as part of heritage preservation efforts. In many ways, the Appenzell goat has become a symbol of biodiversity in agriculture, proof that we can't only chase higher production numbers. Sometimes it's about holding on to history and resilience. Now, the Appenzell goat is also a cultural symbol. For centuries, families in the Appenzell region followed the seasonal rhythm of alpine farming, driving their goats up to the high pastures in the summer, bringing them back down for the winter. The sight of pure white goats against the green mountains became part of their regional identity, and it's a beautiful sight. Even today, these goats are featured in agricultural showcases, local festivals, and even heritage events. They represent more than just milk and cheese, though the cheese is awesome, but they are more than the cheese they can make. They represent tradition and family and the way people and animals have shaped the land together. Losing the Appenzell would mean losing a part of that story. So we should all be so grateful that there are preservation efforts to maintain this beautiful breed. Now let's be clear once again, if you're looking into goats for your farm, the Appenzell probably isn't going to be an option. They aren't really available outside of Switzerland, and even inside Switzerland, they're considered rare and protected. But learning about them still matters, because understanding breeds like the Appenzell helps us appreciate the diversity of livestock around the world. It reminds us that farming isn't just about efficiency, it's also about heritage, culture, and balance. And that leads me to talk about the bigger picture. Why does it even matter if a breed like the Appenzell survives? Well, biodiversity in agriculture is critical. Every time a breed disappears, we lose unique traits. We lose natural hardiness or disease resistance, genetic lines that might one day be essential for adapting to new climates or challenges, as our climate does get more challenging. So, we could also lose a piece of culture. Farming isn't just food. It's also about traditions and stories and a way of life. The Appenzell goat carries centuries of history, and that history is worth preserving. By supporting conservation, even from afar, we show that rare and endangered breeds really do matter. Even if we'll never have the chance to raise them ourselves, we can still look at the pretty pictures. So that's the Appenzell goat. Rare, elegant, and deeply tied to its home region of Switzerland, this breed is a reminder of how important it is to protect our agricultural heritage. Now that is about it for us here today at Anderson Acres. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think it's worth putting resources into preserving rare breeds like the Appenzell, even when they aren't practical for most of us to raise, even though most of us will never see them in person? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. Thanks so much for joining me today, and as always, we'll see you tomorrow.